Emerald Coast Regional Council. I'm an economic development team leader over there. And
Chairman, excuse me, I think you have two microphones on, perhaps, maybe your phone and the microphone on your computer. It's giving us a lot of echo and feedback.
okay, I only have one on. Is that better? I have my cell phone.
Much better.
That's better. That's better.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure what you are able to hear. Let's see here. But yeah, so I work with the Emerald Coast Regional Council, and one of my tasks is to administer this program. So the Pensacola CRA Residential Property Improvement Program, it was established and designed to accomplish several things, to support blight removal by encouraging reinvestment in deteriorating housing infrastructure, to revitalize some of our great historic neighborhoods, to preserve affordability for residents in those neighborhoods, and to preserve the tax base within the designated community redevelopment areas of the city. So far, we've completed, we have 7 completed / active projects in 3 of these target neighborhoods. We have 4 in Belmont de Villiers, 1 so far in East Side, and 2 projects in Tanyard. And we have currently two of those that are active right now, about to finish up, and we have several more on the way. So we provide assistance through a 0% interest deferred payment loan. These are loans that are secured by a lien and placed on the properties. So these liens are for a term of 3 years for owner-occupied properties and 5 years for rental properties. The liens are reduced on a daily basis over the course of the full indenture period, and ultimately they're forgiven at the end so long as there are no violations, and a violation of those terms of the lien shall result in a default. So basically, as long as these community members stay in their house, don't sell the property within that time, transfer ownership, anything like that, then that lien will be forgiven at the end. This program invites applications from owners of priority properties in the targeted areas who are interested in rehabbing and making exterior and other physical improvements to the properties. Eligible owner occupants of these priority properties can be awarded up to $70,000 for eligible improvement costs. Applicants have to own the property that is going to be rehabbed, and they have to provide proof of homestead exemption, or an application at least for homestead exemption. And we also target owners of rental property within these areas. Those owners are ideally renting to people of low to moderate income households, and we can award them up to $17,500 for eligible improvement costs. So far, some of the common eligible rehab activities we've performed include structure cleaning, exterior painting, re-siding or refinishing, doors, storm doors, windows with impact glass, new roofs, and these include eaves and any overhangs. We've also done a number of porches, and as you can imagine with these historic houses, termites are almost always a factor, so we've done a lot of foundation work on all these houses as well. Additional structural and interior repairs and improvements such as HVAC repairs, replacing plumbing, things like that, anything related to health and safety in the house, those can be approved for eligibility as well, so long as funding permits. And that's about it. I'd like to definitely thank the CRA for their continued partnership, and I'd like to thank you all for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Garrett, I think we will hold any questions till the end of the presentation, and then we'll open it for questions.
Okay, sure thing.
Okay, so the next project that we're working on is the commercial facade improvement program project. It is currently active only in the Belmont de Villiers neighborhood, and as you saw before, we're active with the residential program as well within this neighborhood, and so again, we're layering those projects. The principal area is de Villiers Street from Cervantes to Wright. Within this area, eligible property owners can receive up to $30,000 for an improved facade with a matching requirement of 25%. The principal purpose of the program is to provide facade improvements. However, the program can support some limited structural, some parking and roof improvements. So the idea here is to improve the exterior of the building as you can see it from the street. If you're interested in taking a look at the official target boundaries, they are available here. There is a link on this presentation to the CRA webpage which provides those boundaries. There is kind of two areas available, and when you look at the map you'll see a dark blue area. So that includes anything that is non-residential, commercial, mixed-use type buildings. In the light blue, it would be limited to specific properties that have a cultural or a historic significance, and so it would only be limited to those types of projects there. We have been recently implementing a community policing initiative. Primarily, we have 2 officers that participate in this program, and they do bike patrols. This allows them to directly correspond with the community in a way that is engaging and inviting. And so that's primarily what this program entails. And they do work in the entirety of the urban core district. The next project is a project that is being undertaken. This is not a project that is specifically being undertaken by the CRA, but we are working and coordinating in partnership with the Department of Transportation and the Florida-Alabama TPO. And this is a conversion of the MLK/Alkanese and Davis Street roads from one-way streets to two-way traffic. The bulk of this project is actually in the East Side District. However, the very far southern piece, from Cervantes Street down to Wright, it does fall within the urban core district. And the idea here is to support traffic calming and facilitate a more traditional form here that allows for less activity with the traffic. What we see with the one-way streets is that people use them kind of as a throughfare where they're going fast through the streets. When you have the two-way traffic and you see someone coming at you from the other direction, you do tend to slow down a little bit. We have Corey Wilkinson here who will present on this project. They have recently undertaken a traffic feasibility study for this project, and he will give you an update later on in this meeting on this. And then the last project that I have to report to you on is the Hollis Williams Urban Greenway and Skate Park project. This project pretty much originated with the CRA back in 2010 when the CRA created the Hollis T. Williams Urban Greenway Framework Plan. And since then, in an effort to implement that plan, the CRA submitted the plan along with some additional stormwater improvements to receive Escambia County Restore Act funding. The project was awarded about $1.5 million for design, and we're currently working with Escambia County to implement that. Escambia County is the entity that is managing the design portion of this project. in coordination with the city and the CRA. And we do have Terry Berry here with Escambia County to provide us an update on the status of the design getting kicked off.
Hello, this is Terry. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
All right, good. I got a new headset, so I wasn't sure if it was working or not. But anyway, I'm Terry Berry, and I'm with Escambia County, and I'm the project manager for Hollis T. Williams. And so we are extremely excited to get this project going. And I have issued the notice to proceed to our engineering firm that was selected, which is HDR Engineering. And they actually started on July 15th, so just within a week. And then this week, actually on Thursday, we'll be having our official kickoff meeting with the team. During that kickoff meeting, we will be going over all your roles and responsibilities, talking about schedule and those kind of things, and trying to get the project going. And so the project is expected to last starting now until 2022. We expect to have, at that point, we would have our design, all of our designs and permitting completed. The goals, and as already was stated, I would say this is a restore direct component allocation. That's how it's being funded. And our project goals is to be looking at water quality improvements, stormwater and attenuation, recreational opportunities, public art and learning, and skate. We're looking at putting a skate park in and a community garden future expansion. By the time we have our kickoff meeting on Thursday, I don't have it right now, we'll have a complete schedule, and it will be broken up basically with milestones of what's going to be coming up, so I'll have that available at the end of the week. And that's really all I have right now on the project.
Thank you, Terry. And so once we get past design, the next phase will obviously be to look for funding for implementation. There is currently very little funding available for the implementation side of this project, and so that will be the next phase once we get past design.
That is correct.
And so with that, that concludes my presentation. At this time, I will open it up for questions and comments.
Victoria, I'd like to just make a couple of comments. This is Helen Gibson, everyone. I am the CRA administrator, and I just wanted to thank everyone, as has been said, for your commitment and willingness to serve and work with us in the urban core. I also wanted to take an opportunity to introduce David Forte. Victoria did indicate that there are 3 staff persons, but we also have the privilege of having David Forte, who is on the line, on the call with us today as well. He is working out of the city administrator's office and is partly dedicated to helping us administer our hardscape, streetscape infrastructure program. So David is overseeing the actual construction on Garden Street, the DeVillers Roost and A Street projects, the Day Marina, etc. So he's going to be a big help to us. I just wanted to introduce that. And then I'm sorry. And then one other thing, it was I thought, a very good and thorough presentation, and I think you have a good overview of what we do and what we have been doing. But I wanted to also clarify for everyone just a little bit what an increment is, because that term was used. And basically an increment just means the change, the difference, the increase between what property values were in the district when we established this district CRA and what they are today, or what they are each year. And hopefully each year we'll see a growth. Of course, when we were in the Great Recession, we did see some drops, some negative action, but for the most part, over the years, we have been seeing growth. And what the TIF, the trust fund, is based on is an actual amount equal to that increase in taxable value. So we do not, the CRA does not actually tax anybody. We don't collect taxes, but we do collect from the taxing authorities an amount that is equal to the growth in the taxable revenue. I just wanted to clarify that because many times people get confused on that. Thank you all. Please carry on, Victoria.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Hey, Victoria, this is Drew Buchanan.
Hi, Drew.
Hey, I had a question, and this might help for other members too, since we're all new here, is just kind of like a baseline understanding of the budget, unless that's going to be covered under another item. Would this be a good time to ask that?
Yeah, I think this would be a good time to ask that.
So in general, like for this year, fiscal 20, what is the incoming revenue for the urban core?
I don't have that figure in front of me in terms of what the revenue is, but I certainly can report back to the board on that.
Like a ballpark, do you have that?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay. Where I was going with that, and definitely coming up in the future, is as Administrator Gibson pointed out, was possible reductions in taxable value within the urban core due to the legally it's a recession right now, and I wanted to see what staff's projections were on revenue streams coming into the city through the next fiscal year.
Well, currently, based on our discussions with finance and what we're seeing so far, we're not anticipating any major drops. That's just our anticipation. So we're anticipating at least staying where we are or continuing to see growth.
Okay. I think that's all I had for now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Victoria, you have a couple of hands raised. The chairman has his hand raised, and also Marilyn Wiggins has her hand raised.
Okay.
Her hand has been raised for some time.
I can't see it because my screen is absorbed with the presentation.
Yes.
So,
So I think Marilyn's hand was raised first.
okay. Ms. Wiggins?
Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, my computer messed up. I couldn't get on time, but I'm still listening to what you all was talking about. And I know Bruce Beach came up really so quick, and from what I understand, and so I didn't get a chance to really find out what was going on. But I did hear him talking about the DRA program that rebuild homes. Am I correct or am I wrong? I heard him talking about that, and he was saying that, talking about the 3 years, and then talking about the 5 years. I think 5 years is like $35,000, and 3 years is like $17,000, and they'll fix the exterior in your home. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, ma'am. I'll
Because
answer.
I'm really concerned about that because of some housing.
I will respond first to your first part of the question.
Well, I want to know,
about Bruce Beach and the status of Bruce Beach.
Bruce Beach?
So Bruce Beach is
Yes.
currently, we are in the process of closing out a request for proposals, and that's for basically to ensure alignment with the Scape waterfront plan to the extent that that's feasible. Obviously, we do need to work within, as I stated earlier, these are conceptual plans. And so the next phase will be to look more deeply into field conditions, budget constraints, things like that. And so we have not gone really further into design at this point. We're still in that procurement phase. So once we start to get into design, we will have another public engagement opportunity.
So in other words, Miss Marilyn, we are still.
Okay, that sounds good. I'd like to make sure that I'm here too.
Yes, ma'am. We are still in the process of moving
Helen?
design forward. This is Helen. We are still in the process of moving to final design. We have kind of put a pin in that or slowed that down in order to bring in a consultant. As Victoria, I don't know if you were here for that part of it, but she mentioned that we right now are in the midst of an RFQ process to select the firm that will work with the engineering firms that we've engaged to provide consistency review to ensure that as they develop the construction drawings, the construction plans, the final designs, that they adhere to the maximum extent to the original concepts that were developed by SCAPE and pretty much ratified by the community. So we're moving forward, and there will be probably in the next month or so, we'll have that person on board, and we will then be able to get going with some additional community meetings.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. But back to the CRA program and the homes that they was had up on this Facebook, had up here, they was talking about the $17,000 and the $35,000 in the exterior. I think they said something about they're not in the Grove Street area.
Yes, ma'am, I'm gonna refer that
Did they
over.
reconstruct some homes in that area, but you know, they've been trying to.
I'm gonna refer your question over to our program administrator, Garrett Griffin with the Emerald Coast Regional Council.
Hey, Ms. Wiggins.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Because I'd like to ask
the
some
audio is breaking up. What was your question?
Well, I heard you talking about the $17,000 on a 3-year program, and I heard you saying something about $35,000 on a 5-year program. And you said something about rental property and homeowners. So I was trying to engage some of my people in my area to take out, be a part of the CRA program to do some work on their homes. But apparently they feel some kind of way, they think they may lose their homes and this and that. So I'm trying to encourage them that there's programs through the CRA and other programs that they can do the exterior and the interior inside. But I also heard you say something about, I want to know if a person is wanting their homes fixed up, is they the person that is on the homestead, is they the one that have to be living there on a permanent basis, since some other family member living home?
Yes, ma'am. So the way the program works right now, if you have someone of that lives in the home, they own the home, their name is on the deed, and they have a homestead exemption or have applied for that, they can be awarded up to $70,000 for repairs on their home. And on an owner-occupied unit, that's going to be secured with a 3-year lien against the home. It is reduced on a daily basis over that entire course of time until finally, as long as they continue to live in the property, they don't sell it, they don't rent it, they don't transfer ownership, at the end of that 3-year period, then that lien will be forgiven and satisfied, and nothing will be held against their property. If they were to, let's say someone were to take advantage of the program and decided to sell the home after a year, whatever forgivable rate is left on the home, so that 2 out of 3 years, that would be payable and due back to the CRA. And then if you have anyone in your area that is a landlord who is renting a property, they may be eligible for up to $17,500 for improvement costs, and that's secured with a 5-year lien.
Oh, okay.
And I'd be happy. I can get up with you offline and send you my direct contact information, and anyone that would like to discuss the program, I'd be happy to talk with them.
Yeah, I would love to do that because, like I said, right in our area, there are some homes in this area I would like to see get, a remake. But, like I said, I got to make sure that I understand what's going on so I can explain to them, what is really going on. So I would like to do that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I'll get my contact info over to you.
And this is Victoria again.
Thank you so much.
Just to clarify for the members of the board kind of where the neighborhoods are, I think we might have skimmed over that a little bit for the RPIT program. Currently, we are active under this program in the Tan Yard area of the Urban Core District, and also the Belmont de Villiers area. Okay, I can't see the hands. Do we see any other hands raised?
Yeah, I have
The chairman, I believe.
Yeah, I have a question for you. This is on the community policing innovations. Since the shooting of Tamara Crawford last year, that surely the community policing initiatives have taken a hit. And I was wondering what was being done to build relationships between the police and the community right now, as far as any innovations or anything that's going on that you might be able to speak towards.
The CRA is working. I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. This is Helen, and the CRA is working with the DIB, as was mentioned, and Lisa actually may wish to chime in on this and give you some more detail. But outside of the two officers that are jointly being funded to provide, additional contact with the public and just the additional presence to let people know that they are there. I know that there are a number of initiatives that the mayor has undertaken overall, and through Mr. Lawrence Powell, our neighborhoods person, to overall throughout the city, and particularly in the minority neighborhoods, to create a better relationship between the police department and the citizens. So that's an initiative that's being undertaken on an umbrella basis by the mayor and his staff. But Lisa can talk to the specific things that are being done in the urban core with the community policing, paid for by CRA and DIDB.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, so the two police officers have been assigned to the district. Obviously, they're on foot and on bicycles, and they stay within the community. They've reached out to a lot of the business owners and property owners down here so that they have that one-on-one interaction. They've also spent a lot of time since COVID has taken place. We've had an increase in our homeless population on the streets. So they've also done outreach with the homeless community that's down here. We've had a coffee and donuts with the police, meetings with, bringing them in, giving them coffee and donuts and letting them have conversations with the police and trying to figure out how do we all cohabitate respectfully with each other. And they've also initiated a kind of an awards program with some of the people that live on the street to go above and beyond to make sure that they're cleaning up their area. They're improving the name of the community in which they are associated with. And when the police witness these actions being taken place, they have a gift card that they give them, somewhere between $10 and $50, depending on the act that the police observe them doing. So they're building that trust and that loyalty with not only the property owners, business owners, but also with our homeless community that's down here. They've done a phenomenal job.
Interesting. All right, thank you. That helps.
And Mr. Chair, I don't know if we should follow the rules here. I'm not sure how to do it with virtual, but this is Drew Buchanan. I had a follow-up to Chairman Satterwhite's question. Would it be possible for next month or in September to get either a report from staff or PPD to come down and do like we're doing here, either physical or virtual, to give us a report on everything they're doing, not just within the DIB district, but the urban core with regards to community policing?
I'll respond to that, if I may. Yes, we certainly could schedule that for the next meeting of the urban core. Or we can have Chief Leida come to give you an update.
Yeah, I think that'd be very helpful. I don't know what everyone else feels.
I agree 100%.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll make that happen?
Yep, we'll get it scheduled.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the suggestion, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
All right. right. Are there any other questions? Okay. So, great presentation. I appreciate that. Are there any questions from the public?
No, not for that.
Not for this item.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks again for the presentation. It's very thorough. And let's go on to the next one. So, any old business items? There are none. New business items. So, okay. All right. So, number 3, 20-00382, update on MLK Alkanese Davis two-way conversion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Corey Wilkinson here. He is with the engineering and design firm HDR, who's overseeing the traffic feasibility study for this project. And so I'll turn it over to Corey.
Hi, thank you. This is Corey Wilkinson. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are with HDR Engineering. However, this is really a product of the Emerald Coast Regional Council. And Jill Lavender Nobles is the project manager at ECRC. Jill, do you want to start out by saying anything?
Hi guys, thank you. Like Corey said, this is a project under the ECRC, or technically the Florida Alabama Transportation Planning Organization. This is an FDOT funded project, and we have our general planning consultant HDR working on this, so thank you.
Thanks, Jill, and feel free to chime in at any point if I miss something or you want me to, if I miss anything. Also on the phone, on the call with us is Mary Morgan. Mary's the PE on the project, and I'm your planner on the project. And Mary is going to jump in at a couple of points in the presentation to explain some of the traffic engineering. Can everyone hear me okay, and can everyone see the presentation up okay?
Yes.
Looks good.
Yes, looks good.
On my screen, I do see a couple of hands raised. Is that residual or new for this topic?
I'm thinking that's residual, so if you have already spoken and had your question addressed, would you click on your little hand again, and that way it will be unraised.
That's fine. And just feel free to jump in if someone does have a question. This is just informal presentation that we're doing here. So I'll move through. So the purpose of the presentation, it really originated, and I'm going to be looking back and forth at two different screens. So if I'm not looking at you, I'm not ignoring you. But the purpose of this project really originated in the East Side plan, and it's been around for quite some time. I think Helen and Councilwoman Hill could give you a lot more background about how this project really originated, but they've been proponents of it for quite some time, and it's in your CRA plan and in the East Side CRA plan as well. I've only highlighted the East Side here, but the goal, of course, like Victoria said, is to improve the neighborhood infrastructure, and by doing that, returning the streets to a two-way traffic flow. The study area is about 2 miles. It goes from basically Fairfield to Wright. It's all within Council District 6 and the County Commission District 3. It's almost all within the city limits. There is a little bit of county property in there as well, but it's mainly 2 CRAs. In terms of the characteristics, ECAT does drive the corridor. It's 35 miles posted north of Cervantes and 30 south, and 11-foot lanes north of Cervantes and 10-foot travel lanes south of Cervantes. Like I said, it's mostly in the East Side CRA, which is this pink purple color area, and then your CRA south of Cervantes, also shown here. Okay, so what is and what isn't in this study? I just wanted to take a minute to emphasize that. This is just a technical oriented study just on the traffic feasibility study. This is just a switch to tell FDOT whether it's okay to proceed with designing the project. The project hasn't been designed yet. This is just the technical traffic analysis that goes in behind it. So there's this is not a complete streets study overhaul of the project. This is just focusing on one question: does it make sense to do this conversion? Can the traffic support it if we want to go that direction? And the decision-making body on this is the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization. They'll make the recommendation to FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, whether to proceed or not. But to do that, we wanted the input of both of the CRA bodies, the boards. Your east side did recommend support of this at their meeting earlier this month on January 8th. And at the end of this, we'd be looking for a recommendation from this body as well to take that forward to council and then back to the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization. I want to spend a little bit of time to give you some background information on what we looked at before we started the study. And Mary, feel free to jump in at any point if I don't say something quite right. The first thing we look at is the growth rate in the area to project the traffic demand on the project. It's important to recognize that there's actually a negative growth rate projected in this corridor. But for the purpose of the traffic analysis, we need to assume a positive growth rate. So we used a 0.5% growth rate. And we did get concurrence from FDOT on that growth rate before we started the analysis. So that sets the basis for all of the traffic projection in the area. We also did some traffic and pedestrian counts before the COVID situation started. We used that data to do some traffic analysis, and then we analyzed the two scenarios, the existing or the 2019 conditions, and then we project forward to 2045 for a build or no build scenario. In this case, the build scenario is the conversion to the two-way traffic, and that's the goal, and that's what we analyzed. But we also have analysis in the main document. There's an analysis that shows all of the traffic analysis and counts and data for the no build condition as well. And I apologize, I did forget to mention, you can look at the whole report. There's a link to it in your agenda. If you just click on that, it'll take you to the very long detailed report. There's a lot of data in there. Mary's the brains behind that. And we can talk through anything in that specifically. If you have any questions, this is just a high level summary of what we found in that report. So we looked at several different intersections. You can see them on the figure on the right there. Our study window was in November, so it was pre-COVID, so there were actually people in their cars on the streets. We looked at the AM, the morning peak and the afternoon peak hours. And then it was also important, we were able to get in just at on the last day of one of the playoff games at Maggie Field, and we did some pedestrian counts of the situations there at the ballpark, since that was so important for that CRA area. These yellow boxes here show you where we did some detailed pedestrian counts around Maggie Field. Crash analysis, as you might expect, there's a lot of accidents on the corridor. You can see on the two figures, the nodes at the north end and the south end, of course, are most of the accidents at those signals. We did find in the field what people have seen and experienced as residents, that there are cars that are still going the wrong way on the one-way streets. And we did observe that and catch that in our data collection as well. This is really your summary slide. This is what the study found, that in the 2045 projected year, that all the intersections are expected to operate with an acceptable level of service if we go to the two-way conversion, and that there will be no significant queuing either in the morning or the evening for the build scenario going to the two-way conversion versus the baseline of the no-build scenario. So Short answer is it looks good from a traffic operations standpoint. Let me go into a little bit more detail about some of the other recommendations in the report. These are the areas that we want to focus on real quickly, the northern tie-in and the southern tie-ins, how to make that work. I want to call your attention to some features at Cervantes and Tahar, as well as some recommendations at Maggie Field, and then some recommendations corridor-wide. So at the northern tie-in, I'm going to summarize it. Mary, jump in a little bit here too. This is the existing conditions where you've got the I-110 and your ramp off of I-110 just south of Fairfield here, and where MLK splits into Davis and MLK. So in this area here, we believe the best way to tie that in will be a small roundabout. The roundabout could have raised crosswalks to facilitate the pedestrian movements. You can see the sidewalks and the crosswalk shown in this kind of tan color. Without going into a whole lot of detail, Mary, is there anything else you wanted to highlight about this roundabout configuration?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, from a traffic operations standpoint, we have fairly low volumes on these corridors, so the capacity really wasn't an issue, but we saw that the tie-ins, particularly in the north end and south end, might be problematic from a geometric standpoint. So that's why we took the time to go ahead and make these concepts. These are just suggestions, they're not final design by any means, but we just wanted to see, you know, if there was a way to tie in to make the two-way conversion work, to see if it was feasible from a geometric standpoint. So Corey mentioned we have the single lane roundabout to tie in the streets once they're converted to two-way traffic. We do recommend providing pedestrian or bicycle or green space in the remaining right-of-way, and that's shown in this concept from a very preliminary standpoint. This particular concept would require some driveway modifications, and again, this is very preliminary, so these things can be fleshed out in more detail. And we do have some signal modification at that signal at I-110 to make everything work okay. And I won't go into too much more detail at this point, but those are a couple other points for this concept.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Let's proceed to the other challenging factor on this was looking at how to make this work at the southern end within your CRA boundaries at Wright Street. This is the existing conditions where the I-110 ramps come off, the Bay Center, and then you can see the shadow here for the hotel building. So what we're looking at is Wright Street, Davis, and then Alkanese as it comes down. What we think is going to work best here at the southern end are to reduce the through lanes to just one northbound left through and right lane on Wright, do a signal warrant analysis at Alkanese and Wright, and then to provide some pedestrian refuge areas in the remaining green space. Let me show you what that looks like. Here on the right is the broader view. You can see the inset on your left. Mary, you want to describe it better than I just did, showing the lane configurations and the signal and how this area would work.
Yes, you did a good job, and this is another tricky area because you've got the railroad that goes right through the intersection. We did see a lot of crashes at the intersection of Alkanese and Wright, and appeared to be due to that poor sight distance with that building in the northeast corner. So we did recommend signal warrant analysis to be performed here. It looked like it would probably be warranted, but to tie things in with two-way traffic, particularly on the northern leg at Alkanese Street, we had to line up the southern leg. So what we did is we squished that southern leg footprint to the left, or to the west, if you will. There's a lot of lanes out there right now that aren't needed from a capacity standpoint.